Look, I like ZZZ. I like a lot of the characters. Nekomata is still one of my favorites. Lucy is actually quite cute. I adore her. But I really think that they absolutely half-assed all of the relationship stories within this game. Now, obviously, some characters don't have their full relationship story, or at least the wallpaper that comes with it. Soldier 11 has no wallpaper. Soukaku is just crying in the corner with nothing at all, which is kind of unfortunate. But for everybody else, yeah, honestly speaking, first off, wallpaper-wise, they're just okay. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Piper's is quite cute. I think it's better than Lucy's, but I don't really get the point of calling it a dynamic wallpaper. It barely moves at all. It just slightly tilts the camera. And yeah, you have the occasional slight bit of movement, but not really enough for me to consider it unique. Just put a fucking 2D image and you'd be perfectly fine. Blue Archive's wallpapers, or at least the live 2Ds, have more animation going on, which is kind of disappointing. Secondarily, I believe that, at least I wish that, whenever you got the full squad, for instance, if you have the Cunning Hairs with Nekomata, Anby, Billy, and then Nicole, and you had all of their wallpapers unlocked, you got a group wallpaper. But this isn't about just wallpapers. Instead, I want to focus on the relationship story aspect because this game did advertise that, and I feel like it's very subpar. First off, DMs. I honestly think this is a downgrade from all the DMs you would get in HSR. Now, Genshin obviously is an upgrade, but Genshin has nothing at all. I think that DM-wise, this could be way better, but I think HSR did it better because once you got a character, they would message you themselves. You could have kept that exact same system and then had the DM interactions we have now. It would have at least felt a bit more organic, first off. Second off, why don't they use their own emotes? HSR characters use their own emotes. It's actually quite cute when they do it. And overall, the UI design for that messaging system is way better. You get to customize your phone wallpaper. How do we go from that in HSR, where the phone doesn't really play a big mechanic, to this in ZZZ, where the phone is quite, influential and quite substantially beneficial to your character? But they say, yeah, we're just gonna give you a flat, black background, no customization with this at all, not even the wallpaper mechanic like we have in HSR, and no one's using their own emotes. Just feels like a step down in terms of quality, but I don't know, that's just me. Relationship stories, for what they're worth, are here at best. I've done the ones for the characters I like, and they're just okay. I honestly don't really understand. Don't get me wrong, you can have your favorites, and I personally have mine. Nekomata, Anby, Qingyi, and Lucy are some of my personal favorites in this game, but I don't feel like the relationship stories do enough. I don't understand why, for something of this, high quality degree, I don't understand why it's not fully voice acted. Why only have the special events voice acted? Because even if I'm looking at for somebody like, let's say for example, we go to Sons of Caledon and we're looking at Piper, I've interacted with Piper quite a lot. I've done her stuff. I've maxed out that trust. And the trust events, the large ones that get you over the next hurdle, are voice acted, but the mini ones you see characters out and about aren't, and it feels kind of weird because I believe Genshin's hangouts are fully voiced, and you have multiple options within that, so it's odd. But even in that same context, for the characters that you do have and the characters that you do like, the wallpapers themselves are neat. And even if we're going into the trust section itself and we're looking at what else you get, which is usually this mindscape, essentially, that activates once you go into Hollow Zero, I feel like this is a downgrade from the system that they have in HSR. Because what this usually does, it gives you the Mindscape 1 of a character. If you have Mindscape 1, you just get Mindscape 1 again. I have Nekomata's Cinema 1. She is C1. And when I go into Hollow Zero, I get C1. So it really feels like they could have just gotten a +1 constellation or +1 cinema because that would have at least, removed that little bit of RNG or that chance that would be worth this for you, especially for the standard banner ones. But whatever. Hey, that's just me. The trust relationship stories don't tell you as much about the character. And don't get me wrong, they're cute sometimes. But for the characters like Lucy and Piper, and even Corin, for example, those relationship stories are at least semi-decent because those are the only ways you're interacting with the character outside of the main story. For the 5 stars who have agent stories, the relationship stories feel worse because the agent stories are usually rarely about the character. Nekomata's is more about a random police officer than it is about Nekomata herself, which feels disappointing. Koleda's was about a school and a bunch of children, and it had, some things to do with her, but not enough to make me feel like it was Koleda focused. And so relationship stories should help you get attached to the characters you already like or already are interested in, not necessarily leave you feeling the exact same you did before. Otherwise, what was the point in doing it? Subsequently, why is there a limitation on how many times you can interact with characters per day via DMs? Don't get me wrong, DMs 3 out of 3, that's one limitation. But if you're looking into the map itself and you're looking around, after you interact with characters a certain number of times just within the open world aspect of these, in these hub areas, they stop appearing altogether. If you find Korin, reset the day, find Korin, reset the day, find Korin, reset the day, do it enough times, like 5 times maybe, nobody else appears. And so it seemed very weird because I understand you don't want characters and people to speed run the relationship mechanic in this game, but there's not really a downside to, speed running it. There's not an upside to speed running. You just get the wallpaper quicker. It's not like these relationship stories are peak content. They're just there. You can skip through them and honestly, you don't miss much. You miss what? Lucy talking about a whip, Piper talking about the car, Nekomata stealing some wallets here and there, and, being a little bit unnerved regarding her placement within the Cunning Hairs. That's it. You don't get much. I don't know. I think I walked into this because it has, when you present relationship stories, my example of a good one is usually Blue Archives. I'd say Nika has good advisement stories and good episodes. I'd say Eighth Gazer has great ones. Even PGR has nice affection stories because, yeah, the affection stories don't have to be the focal point, but the dialogue options you get as a result of it are great. This is the worst out of all of them, with the highest budget. But then secondarily speaking, this seems like it was going for a Persona vibe and failed miserably within the whole characterization aspect of it. If you got Seth, you had to find him twice randomly before you getting his phone number. What this meant before being able to reset the day and change the time randomly was you had to pray he was out and about or do something else, sleep, hope he was there the next day. Don't get me wrong, it's easier now, but it still sucks that he was locked behind a basically RNG mechanic. If you like a certain character, let's say hypothetically you really like Anby. Some of you may not have seen Anby because the chances for a character showing up are random, but it's not in a sense to where, oh, if you have, let's say you have Nekomata, Qingyi, Lucy, let's say you have these top 3 units, right? It's not going to alternate between those 3 units. It's going to alternate between a bunch of units, even units, hypothetically, that you don't have, even units that you don't have friendship built up with, even units that you have max friendship built up with. Meaning you could find all of these units, half of them might not be useful for you, half of them you might not want to interact with, the other half you might not have a reason to interact with anymore. I think this is just generally a system with a lot of potential, but it's very poor in its implementation, and it lags behind because you don't learn about the characters. And miHoYo is so afraid to commit to anything with these characters and their interactions with you, or make these characters have any, I suppose, really negative traits, that you just feel like you don't learn much. The default trait for characters in a miHoYo game is either you're overworking yourself, or you're distrusting, or you have a bad past that we're not going to actually focus on, but we're going to say it's bad. That's kind of it. I didn't learn much about Lucy. I didn't learn much about her relationship with the Cunninghams. I didn't learn much about her relationship with her family. I learned nothing about Lucy. I learned there's one guy who keeps an eye on her who she is antagonistic towards, and that's about it. Which, don't get me wrong, could be interesting, but they didn't focus on it at all. Piper's didn't tell me much about Piper. The best thing about Piper as a character was the fact that she reminds me of Hoshino. And that meant that I like Piper because I like Hoshino. Not that I like Piper because she's a good character. She's cute. Lucy's cute. Nekomata is cute. These are not well-written characters, though. I don't know, I just feel like this could have been way better, and I'm kind of disappointed with the way it turned out. I like Qingyi a lot, but if you ask me one thing about her relationship story that I remember, I can't tell you a single thing, because it's not that important. And not that important within the context of, oh, hey, it's not that important within, oh, it's, a detail you can skip over. Not that important as in, oh, it didn't tell you anything that you didn't already know. Korin is in the same vein. I like Korin. She's cute. Did I learn about Korin? No. Even if you wanted to tie that in to the live wallpapers, why not have the live and dynamic wallpapers represent something that was mentioned within the relationship story? No. This car, I've never seen this car in my life. This truck they're sitting on, I've never seen it in my life. I can vaguely give this one to Piper because she at least mentions the truck. Lucy's motorcycle, yeah, that's there, but that's the most basic thing you could have done with her. Where are the boars? I never got any explanation on the boars. I don't know, it just feels very odd. It feels like they wanted to add this, but they wanted to add it last minute. And so it's here, but it doesn't really feel like it has a purpose of being here. And I hope it gets better. But with this implementation of Lucy's and Piper's and so on, the live wallpapers don't really feel that dynamic. They don't feel that interesting. And Koleda's is just so bad. I don't know why. Did they run out of ideas for her? What happened here? Because this is just awful. What is this pose? What is she doing? She doesn't even look casual. She's not relaxed. It just looks like you're posing for a photo that you don't really want to take. This is just my rantings and ramblings about relationship stories. Please do better. If Blue Archive, if Nika, if Aether, if PGR, if every other game can do a better relationship story, I would expect more from this. If every other game can do a better text message system, I would expect more than what I get here. This has the highest budget, makes extremely good money monthly, and the best they could come up with is character stand still while we rotate camera. I'll see you next time.